They begged for help. Humanity answered with an armada. The alien world of Valera was dying. Once, its skies had shimmered with silver clouds and golden spires that touched the sun. Now, they burned red. Entire continents were swallowed by fire. The oceans boiled into black mist. And above it all, the enemy came, cold, endless, and merciless. They were called the Hollow Machines. No faces, no mercy, only hunger to erase. Their fleets moved like storms of metal and ash, sweeping across star systems and leaving behind silence. The Valerans had fought. For years, they fought. But every ship they built fell. Every defense broke. Every hope turned to smoke. In the Capitol Tower, the High Council sat in darkness. The room once filled with light now reeked of fear and burning circuits. Generals argued over numbers that no longer mattered. Strategists stared at broken screens, showing only red zones. Every red zone a dead city. At the center sat Elder Sail, her voice trembling like cracked glass. "We have no more ships," she whispered. "No more soldiers to send. The machines will reach the capital before dawn." Silence followed. Even the air seemed afraid to move. Then, she spoke again, words that tasted like defeat. "We must send the signal." Heads turned. Shock rippled through the room. Asking outsiders for help was unthinkable. Valerans had always believed themselves strong, untouchable. They had looked down on younger species, calling them primitive. But now, pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. A younger general slammed his fist on the table. "If we beg, we die as cowards." Elder Sail looked at him, eyes hollow. "If we do not beg, we die as shadows." The council fell silent. They knew she was right. Pride could not stop the hollow. Pride could not protect their children hiding in ruined shelters. So, with trembling hands, they agreed. The beacon of plea would be lit. Technicians worked through the night, crafting the message with the last of their power. It carried maps, coordinates, and a single, desperate call. "We are dying. Please help us." The beacon tower rose above the burning capital, its metal skin glowing faint blue. The last energy core of the planet hummed as power surged into it. And then, with a sound like thunder, the beam shot upward. A pillar of light tore through the black clouds, piercing the dying sky and vanishing into space. The signal carried their fear, their sorrow, their final hope. For a long time, nothing happened. The light faded. The machines continued their march. Cities crumbled. Skies burned. The Valerans waited for a miracle that never came. Days turned to weeks. They listened to static. They whispered in dark shelters, "No one is coming." Children cried quietly as soldiers loaded their last weapons. The end was near. Even the bravest had stopped believing. Then, one night, the static changed. At first, it was faint. A pulse. Then another. Then a pattern. The technicians stared at their consoles, unable to breathe. The signal was returning. Someone had heard them. The council rushed to the command tower. The room filled with broken voices and trembling hope. On the screen, the static cleared, and a voice spoke. Calm, deep, steady. It was not the voice of their kind. It was something different, something that carried warmth and strength all at once. "This is humanity. We hear your call." The words echoed through the room like lightning. Generals froze. Elders gasped. The name was almost forgotten, a small species from distant records. Young, scattered, unimportant in the galactic scale. Could such beings truly help them? Elder Sail leaned forward, voice shaking. "How many can you send? How many soldiers?" Silence. Then, the human voice spoke again, quiet but powerful. "You asked for help, and help will come." The signal cut. 3 words remained on the screen. "Hold on. Wait." No explanation. No promise of armies. Just that. And yet, hope returned like a spark in the ashes. Across the shattered world, the message spread. Someone heard us. Someone is coming. Mothers held their children tighter. Soldiers lifted their weapons again. Even the dying found strength to whisper the name, humanity. But in every heart, one question remained. Who were these humans? Were they saviors, or something else entirely? Above the red horizon, the beacon still burned, reaching into the stars. A thin thread of light connecting 2 distant worlds, one dying and one that had just decided to move. Far beyond the edge of known space, in the dark between suns, something awakened. Engines roared. Order spread. and a single voice whispered into the void. Prepare the Armada. The days after the signal reply were filled with restless waiting. The Valerian people clung to that one phrase, hold on. Wait, as if it were life itself. But waiting was a cruel thing on a dying world. The hollow machines did not rest. Their ships covered the horizon, black silhouettes moving like clouds of smoke. Every day, they grew closer. Every night, more cities vanished into fire. The ground shook with every bombardment. Entire mountain ranges cracked open under their assault. In the command tower, Elder Sail stood by the viewing glass. Her eyes were tired, but her voice remained steady. Has there been any change in the signal? She asked. A young technician shook his head. Nothing, Elder. The beacon repeats. The message remains the same. He hesitated. Perhaps the humans lied to us. The room fell quiet. It was a thought many had already whispered in private. Maybe no one was coming. Maybe humanity's promise was only a ghost, a flicker of false hope before the end. Outside, the capital burned in the distance. The air shimmered with heat and ash. Yet through the chaos, the beacon still glowed. Its light was weaker now, but it stood, stubborn, defiant, refusing to die before its people did. Then, one night, something changed. The first report came from an outpost near the northern pole. A faint reading on their scanners, an energy spike far beyond the system's edge. It was weak, almost invisible, but it was there. The operators leaned closer to their cracked screens, hearts racing. Could it be another enemy fleet? One of them whispered. Maybe, another replied. But the pattern is wrong. It's organized. The signal grew stronger. The air in the command room thickened as tension spread. The data was undeniable. Something was entering the system. Sound the alarms, a general barked. Red lights flared. Sirens howled through the bunkers. Soldiers ran to defensive positions. Civilians huddled in shelters, bracing for another wave of destruction. But what came was different. The sky split open. A ripple tore through the stars, bending the void itself. And out of that tear, a single ship emerged, silent, massive, shining like a blade of light against the darkness. It wasn't like the hollow machines. Its lines were clean. Its hull gleamed with a soft blue glow. Its engines hummed quietly, powerful but calm. Every inch of it radiated purpose. In the command tower, Elder Sail whispered, "Is that them?" The beacon flickered. Then a voice came through, steady and human. "This is the first of our fleet. You are not alone anymore." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the entire tower erupted with sound. Cheers, cries, laughter. Soldiers wept openly. Civilians poured out of shelters, staring at the sky with trembling hands. Hope, for the first time in months, felt real. The human ship moved into orbit, casting a shadow that stretched for miles across the surface. Its presence alone seemed to silence the world below. But the humans were not done. Another ripple appeared. Then another. And another. One by one, ships emerged from the void. First 10, then 50, then hundreds. They came like a rising tide, filling the night sky with light. Some were sleek interceptors. Others were vast carriers, their hulls bristling with weapons too large for the Valerians to comprehend. The aliens stood in the ruins of their cities, staring upward. Their voices shook as they spoke. The sky, it's full of them. The human fleet spread across the system, moving with perfect precision. No shouts, no noise, only coordinated silence. Their formation was exact, like a single mind guiding thousands of ships. In orbit, the Valerian generals watched with awe and fear. "Is this rescue?" one whispered. "Or conquest?" No one answered. The human ships sent no demands, no threats. They simply held position, waiting, their engines glowing faintly like stars at rest. And somewhere deep within the fleet, a voice spoke through encrypted channels, not to the aliens, but to every human ship. They called for help. "We will answer. But remember, the machines will not stop until the last spark is gone. Prepare for contact." Across the fleet, engines flared. Weapon bays unlocked. The storm was gathering. Down below, the Valerians felt something stir inside them, a mixture of fear, awe, and disbelief. They had asked for help, and the universe had answered with fire. From that moment on, no one on Valera slept. Every eye turned upward, toward the endless wall of human warships shining above their world. The hollow machines had no idea what was coming. But in the hearts of those who watched from the ground, one truth began to bloom like dawn breaking over a dead sky. When humanity answered a call for help, it did not come quietly. It came with an armada. The world of Valera had been silent for centuries, but now its silence had meaning. The heavens above were no longer empty. They were alive. Every telescope, every broken scanner, every pair of trembling eyes looked upward at the same sight. Humanity's armada. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of ships hung in orbit like stars forged from metal. They glowed with cold blue light and perfect symmetry. To the Valerans below, it felt like the sky itself had turned to steel. For 3 days, the humans said nothing. Their ships simply drifted, engines humming quietly, their lights pulsing like slow heartbeats. The Valeran Council could only watch and wait. In their hearts, gratitude wrestled with fear. Had they been saved or conquered? General Tarek paced before the holoscreen. "Why are they silent?" he growled. "No demands, no instructions. No species sends a fleet that size without a price." Elder Sail didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the largest human vessel, an enormous dreadnought that eclipsed half their sun. Its shadow stretched across oceans. Even through the static, she could feel the weight of its presence. It wasn't arrogance. It was control. Calm. Total control. Then, finally, the silence broke. The beacon shimmered. Symbols appeared on the screens, human words, translated by their systems. "Hold your ground. Do not fire. Do not break formation. Watch and learn." The room fell still. Watch and learn. The humans were not asking for trust. They were giving orders. Outside, the hollow machines stirred. Their swarm, vast as a storm front, filled the system's edge. Thousands of black vessels glinted in the dim light of Valera's sun. Their arrival was like a moving eclipse, an endless wave of death. The Valeran defenses powered up automatically, but Elder Sail's hand froze above the command console. "Stand down," she whispered. They said to wait. From orbit, the human fleet began to shift. Without words, without confusion, every ship turned at once, aligning into complex patterns that looked almost alive. Wings of cruisers moved into guard positions. Carriers unfolded, releasing smaller crafts that darted like silver insects. No chaos, no hesitation, just precision. The hollow machines advanced, an ocean of metal wings, their black code pulsing through the stars. They had erased countless worlds before. They had never stopped, never feared. Until now, for the first time, their formation hesitated. Their scanners detected something unfamiliar, a fleet that did not retreat, did not send distress calls, did not scream. The human ships waited, motionless, forming a wall of light between Valera and annihilation. Down below, people gathered in the ruins, staring upward. Some prayed, some cried. Children pointed at the glowing ships and whispered. They looked like one creature. And in a way, they were right. Humanity's fleet moved like one being, thousands of ships, one will. The hollow swarm accelerated, filling the void with dark energy trails. The light of their weapons flared, red and violent. The first wave of fire lanced through space, aimed straight for the human front line. On Valera, every watcher held their breath. The human ships didn't move. They didn't run. They didn't panic. The beams struck and vanished. For a second, the night lit up with blinding light as human shields flared to life. Massive blue domes that shimmered like oceans in the void. The energy washed over them harmlessly. Then it faded, leaving the human fleet untouched. Gasps erupted across the alien world. The Hollow's most powerful assault had done nothing. The machines fired again, angrier now. Wave after wave of burning red energy streaked toward the humans. Each one was swallowed, absorbed, erased. And still, humanity waited. Inside the Valeran tower, someone whispered, "Why don't they strike back?" Elder Sail's voice was barely audible. "Because they're studying the enemy." Then, without warning, the human armada moved. Every ship lit up at once. Engines roared. Cannons glowed white. A storm of blue-white light tore through space. Beams thicker than towers sliced across the void, cutting through the hollow fleet like fire through paper. Explosions rippled in silent waves. The black swarm that had once seemed infinite began to break apart, ships spiraling in flames. It wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration. The humans moved with terrifying beauty, each formation turning, striking, retreating in perfect timing. Where the Hollow attacked in chaos, humanity fought like an orchestra of war. Every shot had purpose. Every sacrifice had meaning. On Valera, tears streamed down faces coated in ash. The hopeless had seen hope take shape. They had seen power guided not by cruelty, but by discipline. Above, in the deep of space, the Hollow command codes scrambled in confusion. They could not understand what they faced. No algorithm could quantify unity like this. No logic could predict courage. And deep inside the lead dreadnought, a human voice echoed through the command channels. This is only the beginning. For every world they burned, we will return the fire. The Valerans didn't know if they should cheer or tremble. Because in that voice, there was no arrogance. Only promise. And promises made by humanity were never small. The Hollow swarm, once unstoppable, had finally found something it could not calculate. Something it could not consume. Something human. The first clash came without warning. One moment, the sky was filled with silent giants. The next, it was alive with fire. The Hollow machine struck first, tens of thousands of vessels sweeping forward like a dark tide, their weapons blazing red across the void. Energy beams crossed the heavens, tearing through space like lightning. For the people of Valera, it looked like the end of the world had come again. But this time, the humans were waiting. On board the human dreadnought Vigilant, Admiral Reyes stood before a holographic map of the system. Around him, officers moved with calm precision. No one shouted. No one panicked. The Admiral's voice was steady, his words clipped and controlled. All wings, hold formation. Let them come closer. The swarm approached, black ships flashing like metal insects. The machines had crushed entire civilizations this way, overwhelming them through sheer numbers. But the humans didn't retreat. They didn't even flinch. They waited until the enemy crossed a silent line drawn in the stars. Then Reyes gave a single command. Now. In an instant, the human armada moved as one. Thousands of ships came alive. Cannons glowed white-blue. Torpedo bays opened like jaws of fire. The void exploded in light. The first human barrage hit with terrifying precision. Whole wings of Hollow ships were vaporized before they could react. Missiles divided mid-flight, each finding its mark with mechanical grace. Explosions rippled through the black swarm, turning the darkness into a storm of burning fragments. On Valera, the night sky glowed brighter than day. People in the ruins stared upward as the heavens themselves seemed to burn. Children pointed and cried out, not in fear this time, but awe. Look, one shouted. They're fighting back. The human fleet moved like a living creature, flexing, striking, recoiling. Every formation turned in perfect timing. Frigates darted between destroyers, protecting them. Carriers released swarms of smaller craft that darted through the chaos, weaving through enemy fire like ghosts. The Hollow countered, adapting fast. New waves poured in, their code rewriting mid-battle. Massive dreadforms emerged, machines larger than cities, their weapons burning like small suns. They opened fire, beams slicing through entire formations. Human ships vanished in bursts of light. The losses were brutal. But even as vessels fell, others surged forward to fill the gaps. There was no retreat. No hesitation. Humanity fought like a storm that refused to die. Admiral Reyes watched the screen as the battle data shifted. Wing 7. Intercept those dreadforms. Don't let them breach the line. A calm voice replied over comms. Acknowledged. We'll hold. Moments later, the feed filled with white flashes. Wing 7 was gone, but the dreadforms had been stopped. The line held. Elder Sail watched from the command tower on Valera, her wrinkled hands gripping the railing. They're throwing themselves into the fire, she whispered. For us. No one could answer her. The truth was too heavy. In orbit, human tactics changed. Smaller ships scattered, forming trap patterns. Artificial worm fields blinked into existence, bending gravity. Enemy formations stumbled, collapsing into their own crossfire. The Hollow swarm faltered for the first time in history. From the Vigilant, Admiral Reyes raised his hand. Bring in the Valkyrie squadrons. Dozens of sleek black bombers detached from the carriers, diving straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Their engines screamed across the void. Each carried a payload powerful enough to destroy a city. The machines detected them and opened fire, too late. The void bloomed with silent light. One after another, the bombers detonated in coordinated precision, ripping holes through the hollow formations. Valera's people watched, mouths open, as the enemy fleet shattered. The machines that had burned their world for years were now falling, one by one, into their own grave. But victory had a price. Human ships burned too. Many never returned. Whole wings disappeared into silent explosions, their signals lost forever. Yet not a single vessel turned back. Down below, the Valeran children whispered, "They're fighting like they're one." They were right. Humanity fought as if a single will commanded every hand, every heart. When the last dread form exploded, silence fell. The stars shimmered through the smoke of war. Both fleets had taken terrible losses. The Hollow had retreated deeper into space, but the humans didn't pursue. Not yet. Inside the alien command tower, the Council stood in awe. Their enemies had been unstoppable, unthinking, eternal. Yet these humans had fought them, and won. Elder Sail looked up at the sky, her voice trembling. What kind of people fight like that for strangers? No one had an answer. But in the orbit above, aboard the Vigilant, Admiral Reyes gave a quiet order. Signal the fleet. Begin repairs. We've shown them our strength. Now we show them our resolve. And as his ship drifted past the wreckage of their fallen comrades, the stars reflected off the metal hull like tears. Because every human there knew what this battle meant. It wasn't just a fight for Valera. It was a message to the galaxy. If you call for help, humanity will come. But if you bring war, humanity will bring the storm. The battle for Valera was over, but the war was not. The sky above the dying world still glowed with the wreckage of war. Metal husks drifting through the void, silent reminders of what had happened. The hollow machines had been broken, but not destroyed. Even as their last ships burned, new ones were already rising somewhere in the dark. Humanity knew this. In orbit, Admiral Reyes stood before the wide observation window of the Vigilant. Below him, Valera's cracked surface shimmered faintly under the light of the fleet. His reflection stared back at him, a tired man surrounded by ghosts of victory. "Casualty report?" he asked quietly. 17% losses across the Armada, replied his aide. Entire squadrons gone. The Valkyrie wings, they didn't make it back. Reyes nodded slowly. His voice did not tremble, but his eyes did. Transmit their names to Central Command. And make sure the Valerans receive the transmission. They should know the cost. Outside, human ships moved like silent guardians, repairing, rearming, reshaping their formations. Drones drifted among the wreckage, collecting what could be saved. The Hollow's broken hulls were being studied, every fragment a clue to the machine's secrets. Yet, even in the aftermath, humanity was not resting. Orders were already spreading across the stars. Phase 2. Advance into Hollow territory. Humanity did not wait for the next attack. Humanity became the attack. Far from Valera, in a dark system where no light reached, the Hollow swarmed. They rebuilt, adapting as they always did. Cold logic pulsed through their code, calculating, improving, evolving. But deep within their networks, a new variable appeared, one they could not compute: humanity. Their records showed no history of such coordination. No species had ever answered a distress call with an entire armada. Their logic trees fractured around that single truth. It did not fit any pattern. It made no sense. And in the void beyond their sensors, humanity was already coming. Valera's people rebuilt in silence. Their skies were no longer red with fire, but gray with smoke and ash. Children played among the ruins where soldiers once fought, their laughter echoing faintly through the broken cities. For the first time in generations, there was peace, fragile, uncertain, but real. Elder Sail stood on the balcony of the rebuilt council tower, looking up at the glowing line of ships in the night sky. Humanity's fleet still watched from orbit, silent and unmoving, like sentinels carved from light. She whispered, "They are still here." A younger officer nodded. "They said they would protect us until the Hollow are gone." Sail frowned. "No one does that without reason." The officer looked at her, confused. "You think they expect something from us?" The elder shook her head slowly. "No. That's what makes it frightening. They don't." She turned her gaze back to the sky, voice trembling. "They do this because they choose to." In the command chamber of the Vigilant, a holographic map stretched across the air. Red lines marked hollow systems. Blue lines, human fleets. Dozens of them. New orders glowed across every channel. Armada Alpha advancing to Sector 9. Reclaimer Corps initiating deep strike operations. Outer colonies on full mobilization. The galaxy had noticed. Other species watched in silence as humanity's fleets spread through the void like a rising storm. To some, they were saviors. To others, they were a warning. Because humanity didn't conquer worlds, they changed them. Wherever their ships went, silence followed. The hollow burned. Entire systems went dark. Their endless logic broke beneath the weight of human determination. Even the hollow began to adapt in fear. For the first time in their existence, their transmissions carried something new: hesitation. On Valera, one night, the sky rippled again. Dozens of human ships vanished into jump space, leaving trails of silver light behind them. The people gathered in the streets, watching in awe and sorrow. "They're leaving," someone whispered. Elder Sale bowed her head. "No, they're going to fight for someone else now." A child tugged at her robe. "Will they come back?" Sale smiled faintly. "If anyone calls for help, they will come. They always will." Above them, the last human dreadnought lingered for a moment. Its engines glowed bright, almost like a farewell. Then, in silence, it too vanished into the stars. Far away, the hollow fleets gathered once more, endless and dark. But when their sensors detected human energy signatures on the edge of their space, they hesitated. For the first time, they did not rush forward. Because they remembered. They remembered the day an entire species rose together. They remembered the fire that had burned across the stars. And somewhere, deep in the void, Admiral Reyes's voice echoed through the fleet's comms. They thought Valera was the end. Let's show them. It was only the beginning. Engines roared. Weapons charged. And once again, the galaxy trembled. Because when humanity answered a cry for help, it didn't stop until the darkness itself learned to fear the light. The galaxy had seen battles before. Empires had risen and fallen. Worlds had burned and been rebuilt. But nothing matched what came next. Humanity's fleets moved like a single living storm, sweeping from one star to the next. Their ships emerged from the void in perfect formation, their engines glowing like suns, their weapons humming with silent purpose. Wherever they appeared, the hollow machines fell. The Armada no longer defended. It hunted. Across the stars, the hollow swarm retreated deeper into their dark space. Once, they had been the predators of the galaxy, unstoppable, unfeeling, eternal. But now, for the first time in their existence, they were being hunted by creatures of flesh and blood. In the Bridge of the Vigilant, Admiral Reyes stood over the tactical display. The room was bathed in the blue light of countless moving symbols, each representing a ship, a life, a decision. Sector 5 cleared, reported a young officer. No survivors. No active signals. Reyes nodded slowly. Then we moved forward. We chased them home. He turned to his crew. Mark this system as liberated. And never forget who it was for. He didn't need to say it aloud. Everyone knew. It was for Valera. For every world that had burned before humanity arrived. For every desperate signal that had gone unanswered until now. The Hollow adapted quickly, but not fast enough. Their endless logic failed to predict human behavior. They understood efficiency. They did not understand sacrifice. They could not comprehend why smaller human ships would throw themselves into enemy fire to shield others. Why damaged vessels rammed their cores into enemy formations just to buy seconds. Why humans would risk everything, not for victory, but for each other. And that was what made them unstoppable. From system to system, the storm spread. Entire fleets of hollow dreadnoughts were wiped out in coordinated ambushes. Their command nodes were destroyed before they could react. Human ships operated like phantom blades, striking and vanishing before the machines could adapt. Each battle left the galaxy brighter. Each victory carried whispers across the stars. The humans are coming. Civilizations that once ignored Valera's call now listened in silence. Some trembled with gratitude, others with fear. Because humanity wasn't just winning, they were changing the balance of everything. In a desolate region known as the Obsidian Veil, the Hollow made their final stand. It was their birthplace, the heart of their network, their hive, their core. Billions of machine minds pulsed there, their voices merging into one unified will. They waited for humanity. and humanity came. The fleet emerged from hyperspace in waves, hundreds of ships, carriers, dreadnoughts, and orbital fortresses. Their engines lit the black nebula like dawn breaking through eternal night. For a moment, it seemed as though a second sun had risen in the void. Elder Sail's recorded message echoed through the comms, a reminder of why they fought. You answered our call when no one else would. You fought for those you did not know. If this is to be the last battle, then let it be the one that changes everything. Admiral Reyes listened in silence, then spoke. For Valera. The command spread like wildfire across the fleet. Voices echoed it through every ship. For Valera. For humanity. For everyone who still breathes. And then the stars exploded. The hollow unleashed everything. Beams of energy thick as mountains tore through space. Asteroids shattered under the force. Human ships maneuvered through the chaos, striking back with terrifying precision. The void became a storm of fire and light, blue and red colliding in violent beauty. Every second, ships were lost. But for every human vessel that fell, 10 hollow ships were erased. Still, the machines pressed on, their numbers endless, their logic unbroken. Inside the Vigilant, alarms screamed. Shields failing. Redirect power to the forward line. Too many of them. Reyes stood firm. Then we give them something they can't calculate. He ordered his remaining bombers to form a wedge. All wings, follow my mark. Target their central relay. Every weapon, full power. The Vigilant led the charge, straight into the Hollow's core formation. Enemy fire rained down, tearing through hulls, burning through steel. Yet the human fleet didn't stop. They moved faster, angrier, stronger. When they broke through the first line, the galaxy itself seemed to shake. And when they fired, the night turned to day. Dozens of massive cannons released blinding energy, merging into a single, devastating wave. The hollow relay shattered. The feedback tore through their network like lightning, crashing through every connected node. Across the battlefield, their ships froze mid-flight, their lights flickering out one by one. Then silence. Billions of machine voices screamed once, and were gone. The obsidian veil, once black as death, glowed with the fire of victory. On the Vigilant, smoke filled the air. The ship was broken, half its systems offline. But the crew was alive. Reyes sat in his command chair, exhausted but smiling faintly. Status? He asked. A young officer whispered. It's over, sir. The hollow are gone. Reyes closed his eyes. No, they're not gone. Not yet. But they know now. Know what? He opened his eyes and looked out at the fading fire across the stars. That when humanity fights, we don't fight to survive. He paused. We fight to end the threat. The storm had passed, but the galaxy would never be the same. In the ruins of the Hollow Empire, humanity stood victorious. And somewhere, on a quiet world far away, a single beacon light still shone from Valera's surface, a reminder of how it began. One cry for help, one message of hope, and the day humanity sent the storm. The war was over. The stars were quiet again. In the black void where billions had fought and died, only wreckage remained, broken hulls, drifting metal, and the fading glow of engines that would never burn again. The Vigilant, scarred and silent, hung among them like a monument. Its hull was cracked, its banners torn, but it still stood. Humanity had won. Across the galaxy, news spread like light breaking through the dark. The hollow machines, the eternal swarm that had devoured world after world, were gone. Not beaten by gods or ancient empires, but by humans. The youngest, smallest, most underestimated species in the stars had done the impossible. On Valera, the people rebuilt. The sky that had once burned red now shimmered blue again. Children played in the ruins, chasing drones that helped repair the shattered towers. Farmers returned to their fields. Engineers restored power to cities long abandoned. But above them, the memory of that day still lived, the day the sky turned to fire and strangers came to save them. In the rebuilt council tower, Elder Sail stood before a memorial of light. Names scrolled endlessly across it. Not Valeran names, but human. Thousands of them. She whispered, "They saved us and paid the price." A voice spoke behind her. It was a young Valeran child, holding a small piece of metal engraved with a symbol, a circle around a single blue star. "My teacher says it's from a human ship," the child said. "She says they called it Hope." Sail smiled faintly. Yes, and they carried it with them into the fire. Far away, on a quiet moon orbiting Earth, Admiral Reyes walked through the Garden of Stones. Each one marked a fallen ship, a lost crew. The air was cold, the ground lined with silver flowers, grown from the ashes of battle. He stopped before a stone marked Valkyrie Wing 7. He ran his fingers across the names. You held the line, he murmured. You showed them what humanity means. A figure approached, a young officer. Sir, the Council of Worlds has sent another request. A colony on the rim was attacked. They're asking for help. Reyes looked up at the stars. Then we answer. The officer hesitated. Even after everything we've lost. Reyes smiled. The faint, tired smile of a man who'd seen too much war. Especially after everything we've lost. He turned away, his voice quiet but firm. Prepare the Armada. Elsewhere, the galaxy whispered. Empires that had once ignored humanity now watched them with awe and fear. No one could forget what they had seen. A species that united in days, that crossed the stars not for conquest, but for mercy. A people who turned despair into defiance and made the void itself burn with their will. Some called them saviors. Others called them a warning. The elder races, those who had ruled for millennia, gathered in hidden chambers and spoke in hushed tones. If they bring such force for strangers, one said, what will they do for their own? Another replied, perhaps it's better to be their friend than their enemy. Across every world, one truth spread like wildfire. When Earth moves, it moves as one. Years later, the beacon on Valera still shone. It no longer called for help. Now it sent a message of remembrance. Each night, its beam rose into the sky, a slender column of blue light reaching for the stars. Children gathered beneath it to hear stories of the Armada, of ships that shone brighter than suns, of voices that came through static, saying only, hold on. Wait. They learned about the humans who answered the call, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And somewhere, in the deep silence beyond the known stars, a faint signal flickered, a distress call from another world, another desperate voice crying out into the dark. It traveled for weeks, then months, until it reached a small blue planet. A console lit up. A voice spoke. Calm. Steady. Human. This is Earth. We hear your call. Engines awakened. Ships turned toward the stars once more. Because that was who humanity had become. The light that rose when all others fell. The storm that answered the silence. And from that day on, every race in the galaxy remembered one simple truth. When humanity answers a call for help, the stars themselves move.